If this franchise has given me anything, it's these words to live by.
I don't have friends.
What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. Pretty sure I've used that joke before. Welcome to the fourth studio now. They're rebuilding our house. We'll get there. Today we're talking Fast X. Is it X-rated? Let's find out. So Dom Toretto and his
Family
are targeted by the vengeful son of drug kingpin Hernan Reyes. It's the most lethal opponent they have ever faced. Of course, being played by Jason Momoa, this movie is rated PG-13. Nothing has changed there. We have intense sequences of violence, action, language, suggestive material. If you've taken the kids to the other movies, well, they probably weren't born yet. This franchise is going on. It has been going on for a long time now. We're at movie number 10. That's apparent in the title. And it's progressively gotten dumber. Everything I want to say in this review, you've probably heard 1,000 times before, so I'll make it short and sweet, and I will also talk about the fact that it continues to get dumber. Now, with each passing film, the last 3 or 4 times, there has been one massive, crazy set piece, from the torpedo to the outer space stuff. What more could they do? Well, instead of going bigger, they just expanded the bigness. Does that make sense?
I am so confused.
Because there isn't just one big scene in this movie where I sit back and go, I don't think that's possible. And I will say this about this franchise. They've at least committed to the bit. Not only that bit, but they say family like 20-something times in this movie. So they're very aware that that's the shtick, right? So I at least appreciate that. But this film spreads out the insanity, and there are 4 or 5 scenes where I'm sitting back just like, I don't know what they're doing right now. It's entertaining, at least, and I'll say this early on in the review, so if you want to tune out after, I don't blame you, please stay. It's better than 8, and it's better than 9. I prefer this one over the last 2. It's not saying too much, but it is saying that this at least commits to the point to where they embrace the insanity. This is, and I saw a comparison on Twitter, somebody said it's like the Avengers or the Avengers Infinity War of this universe, and while the story is nowhere near as creative and the characters and so on and so forth, I get where they're coming from because it is kind of assembling everyone and we all have to come together for the greater good. What is the greater good? I still don't know.
I don't know.
But no, there are like 3 or 4 missions going on here. The group, once again, is separated, and we kind of get some of the same team-ups that we are used to. I do wish this franchise, when they continue to separate these characters, I wish they would start to separate them with different people, but I guess they kind of do that because we have new people joining groups that we're used to. Regardless, there are about 4 plot threads going on at the same time. One that I was not really expecting. I didn't watch too many trailers for this movie. John Cena as Jacob with a younger character. I don't want to spoil that plot point. Is that a spoiler? No. But again, with each passing film in this franchise, we'll have a really bad person who does horrible, unspeakable things that you could never forgive anyone for in real life, and then in the next movie, it's all good. It's all good. And they do that again here. And then you have the concept of family, and that is taken seriously in this universe because everyone that comes in is a family member of someone else. Not necessarily a family member of one of the main team members, but when you have new characters, you should expect them to have a conversation at one point going, yeah, you were friends with this. Oh, and yeah. That's the case again here, too.
Family.
If you're asking me about performances, it's the same thing I've said in every film. It's hard to tell because the dialogue that they're given, it's not the best, but at least in this film, they know they're reading not very good dialogue, and a lot of these cast members commit. The best one, in my opinion, I think the factor that everyone's kind of agreeing on here, whether you love or hate the movie, it's Jason Momoa. Not only is he committing to this villainous performance, he gives one of the best villainous performances in the entire franchise, and he's chaotic. He's crazy. He is over-exaggerating the entire film, but it works for that character. And the word chaos, it fits with exactly what he's trying to do, and some of his maniacal scheming, it's dark. It's way darker than what I expected out of this film, and I like it. And Momoa was great in this film. And then you have the other end of the spectrum and, the performances that aren't the best. I always say this, I think Brie Larson is an amazing talent, but in these blockbusters, it's like she goes there, other than Kong. I thought she worked really well in Kong, but in Captain Marvel, and now this one, the performance for me, and maybe she was given like the worst dialogue. I don't know if that was on purpose. I don't know who did this to her, who didn't like her in the writer's room, but every time she said a line, And it's like, I don't buy it. Not for a second. Not for less than a second. A millisecond. I have other people listed on IMDb. Scott Eastwood, was he in this movie? I don't remember. Jason Statham. Yeah, he was in it. Very briefly. Fun action sequence, but again, all of these action sequences, and I think it comes down to the director. When you have a more capable director in this franchise, the action sequences are going to be better. The grand scale action sequences, the races, the madness, the opening sequence with the bomb, it's just kind of rolling down a hill, and it should have went off numerous times. It should have killed countless people, but it didn't.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
I guess those are filmed well enough. Louis Leterrier, he's been there, he's done that. He directed Now You See Me, Clash of the Titans, The Transporter. So he is aware of how to shoot a big action sequence, but the more close-up action sequences and those movements, the choreography there, I did see one very brief comparison right before I watched this. Not used to that. Right before I watched this movie, and they were comparing the choreography of this film and John Wick. First of all, that's not fair for Fast and Furious. That they're in two different ballparks. If anyone wants to compare those two movies and talk about the choreography, don't. Because they're not remotely close to the same level. But I don't hold that against Fast and Furious. No, the hand-to-hand combat here, it's not as good, but it's more about the awe factor of seeing your favorite action heroes fight against each other in this franchise. You know, from your John Cena's to your Jason Stathams to your Vin Diesels, who, once again, does a nice job. He's the emotional core, the relationship with his son, the relationship with his actual family, and then his fast family. They should name the last one Fast Family. They have to, right? I mentioned the bomb thing. Without spoilers, there's a sequence where there's a young child in a vehicle, and the character that's trying to save that young child does something that absolutely puts that child's life in jeopardy. But with the rules we have established in this universe, no one can die. No one's going to die in that specific moment. And when someone does die, it's this big grand sacrifice. It just doesn't happen. It has to be built up to. Right? So it's going to be one thing or the other. So you know what's coming. Those moments are predictable. They could have been handled better. But again, it is so self-aware. It wasn't atrociously bad. I didn't have a horrible time with the pacing as long as this movie is. And I was like, the length is going to be an issue. The length really wasn't an issue for me.
That's what she said.
And that's definitely a positive, especially with the 10th entry in a franchise. And again, it wasn't atrocious. It's been on a downward trend. And whatever you say about this film, it's at least better than those two. Right? So before I give my score, simple question. Are you on board with the ridiculousness? Have you invested time in this franchise? Do you have fun with it? Or did you drop off a long time ago? Hey, again, if you're a fan of like your Fast Fives and your Furious Sevens, this is definitely, I would say, closer to that than Fast 8 and Fast 9, and we'll see about the next two films. Also, before I give you my score, dropping a like would help me out, so if you want, it's fine. Fast X embraces the lunacy that this franchise is known for, and it provides some massive action sequences. Certain moments are too ridiculous, but the pacing is an improvement over the previous two entries. Not every performance and subplot works, but Momoa is a great villain. If you like that schlocky B-movie, 80s, 90s throwback, then, you're going to enjoy this, but it's not winning over new fans, and there are some moments that, like I said, are just, they're a little too ridiculous. It didn't make me a hardcore fan of this franchise, but I dreaded it, to be fair. I was not looking forward to this, and I'm glad I saw it on a big screen, because it's a big screen movie. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.